Welcome back to Granja Caimito in the Pedroches Valley of Andalusia, Spain. This here is the very first swale that we dug and where we planted something. Back then we did not have any fences at all and no animals. When we started planting, the neighbor to the east, an older couple running sheep and pigs for co-op, remarked that it were a useless undertaking, as the animals will eat it all. Now it appears that the madroño shrubs are changing their leaves this autumn. Or they might have suffered during summer, and we are looking at a problem. This berm has been neglected, and we have not irrigated at all. Sometimes it's good to not have time for something like this, to learn how well something already works, or not. Soon we will know more. After the issues with those palovnia trees, our irrigation now looks like that. And our, in this way, was a little bit distant to the tree, so that the soil around it gets wet, and therefore we can avoid the bathtub effect, where the tree roots are then sitting in standing water. So the tree itself has some potting soil to provide it some nutrients, and then we wet the area around it so that the water goes into the potting soil from the outside. Of course the spray is there from the top, but at least that avoids this this cup basically filling up with water, and then there's no way to go. So that way it's more like rain, instead of setting the tree in a bathtub with water. And it seems to work better than what we were doing before. Before we were thinking we had to irrigate close to the roots, but that is wrong. So that way it seems to work out much better. This is one of our Palovnia tomentosa trees that we have planted at the entrance of the compound. And we have two different types or varieties of Palovnia. This one is real tomentosa, but it's infertile. And then the trees that we have planted down there, those are of a different variety, based on Palovnia elongata, which is the one that grows very tall. But I wanted to show you this one here, because there are a few interesting things. So this tree will produce branches and will provide shade. You can see that it has those big leaves, and they're already pretty big. You can compare with my hand. And then it has all those little branches that are emerging from the center trunk. And down here there is an interesting piece, because you see there is a branch, and off of that branch we have additional ones. And this will get a structure, as every good tree does. And now you can meet Nummer 8. She is also very curious and also wants to know. So now we can have a look again. So this is what makes the tomentosa a tomentosa instead of the elongata, which goes up and up and up and has very little branches in comparison. And I thought this is an interesting detail to note. They grow a little bit slower than the other ones, but they have to produce more branches, which makes sense. There are a few brown spots and all that, but that's because the dogs are around here and there. They do what dogs do, so they pee on the leaves, and that produces then things like what you can see here. So this is not ideal, but the tree will grow tall, and then this is not going to be a problem anymore. And now that I'm here, I can show you a little bit what we are doing here. So let me step back a little bit. This here is the platform where we use the fill from the creek, which is down there. There is the big pond that we have been talking about. And up here on that platform, hopefully by the end of the year, you will see a barn, or at the very least a roof. So this will be a barn, and in there I also plan to provide space for some accommodation. So maybe 2/3 a workshop and the other third for accommodation. It's going to be tall. And here in this area, right here, there we have some silos, like the one that you can see sticking up there, for feed, chicken feed mostly, chicken and pig feed, but mostly chicken. So that is the plan, to have this here. And in this area where the Polovnias are, so there is one and there's another, and there is one that we planted last year, but it struggles a bit and it grows slower. That area is basically to have a nice entrance next to the gate here. And you see the tall fence around this. We have some wooden posts that used to be part of another structure that we demolished. They are waiting over there, and those posts will be fence posts for this 2-meter high perimeter fence around the compound. And the plan is to plant vine. It will go up that fence and provide us with a green wall, and it will also provide something to eat. So we have a task on our task board for January to plant vine here. We will order them in time, and they come as little sticks, and when spring comes around, they will then start to form roots and begin growing, and that is what we're going to do in January. And of course, first we will make the holes with our auger. And we just ordered one for a tractor, because a guy will come who has a tractor, and we will basically begin by accumulating the accessories. And eventually we will have our own tractor, but in the meantime we just rent one whenever we have a need. But we can have the accessories. It's much cheaper than buying a whole tractor at the same time if there are people with tractors around. So you can see the dogs basically have created this lane here. And in that lane we will plant our vine, and then have an inner fence around here to keep the dogs out of this area, so that the vine can grow. A few details to be taken care of, and this of course is not related to any farm produce of any kind. It's just because it looks nice. And the grapes, we will see whether that's grapes for making wine or grapes for the table. But you can eat both, so it doesn't really matter. But it's more or less for having them, and because it looks much nicer than this structure here. This is not a very good thing, but it keeps the dogs in, and that is at the moment the purpose. So that is the idea here. The gate will stay there where it is. That is fine. So we have the easement and our own driveway to our own entrance, which is down there. So this is the permanent structure. We may clean this up a little bit here, because right now that prevents us from opening the gate to the outside. We can only open it to the inside. And as you can see, it's a little bit moist and cloudy. Up there are the clouds, and there is more rain in the forecast. Today we did not get any downpour. We got a dribble, but over 2 or 3 hours, and that dribble did something. So you can see it looks different. It does not look dry, and it isn't. It is moist, so something is happening. Gives the plants time to adjust that there is rain now. And of course, a torrential rain creates other problems, but we will have those very soon. So now autumn is here basically. But it might very well be that after those few days now with some clouds and some rain, that then the sun will come back out, and then it will be 35 again. Until then, in October, suddenly, like using a light switch, it will stay cold. Right now it's 13 degrees, but that is because of the rain and there is no sun to heat it up. But that will change once the clouds are gone, because we are not yet completely in autumn, but it's the beginning, so that's good. And I really have been looking forward, because all that hot temperature and dry and basically the desert feeling, it's not really very comfortable. Even if I spend most of my days currently inside doing IT work, but each time I go out I can feel it. So it's better to have this climate as we have right now. The horses have been asking for something green this afternoon, so I quickly went into our wannabe food forest and cut a bit of the vetiver grass and provided it to them. I've been thinking that once we have a lot more vetiver grass, we can cut it and put it together with straw through a chipping machine and have a more nutritious summer meal for the animals. One more time about our special friends, the ants. This is how it looks like. A lot of seeds that they have harvested the whole summer. And now you see I would almost have said shells, but of course those are not shells, but something that protects the actual seed and makes it fly. This is basically the garbage that they leave out, and they eat only the seed itself. And they are still finding some seeds. So you can see here, there is one carrying a seed. So they are still busy, and it is basically what they forage on. There's not much else around. And so they drag into their hole, into their nest, whatever they can find. Let's see, there are a few others that seem to have found some treasure. And in other circumstances, all of that could have been plants. Now, it feeds the ants. Yes, of course, the ants have some beneficial properties, but when you are in a position that you want ground cover and grasses for forage for other animals, then of course the beneficial properties of an ant colony are not really the thing that you're looking forward to. So now the beneficial insect becomes a nuisance, and when something is a nuisance, then we humans usually say it has to go. And in that case, of course, we will make this part of a cycle. Once we finally get the chickens, then they will be chicken food. So we turn ants into eggs. And then hopefully we will have more plants, because there is enough seeds around. But right now, they are being taken away by these little creatures here. Let's walk around a little bit and see how many ant hills and trails and seeds that they have eaten we can see. It's a lot, I can tell you. Just watch. Thankfully, more and more Bermuda grass emerges, so that will then provide us with a green ground cover all year long. They are really everywhere. Some of you might say, then just put a chicken tractor there. And yes, that would be a good thing to do. However, there is a catch. That would work very well on a homestead with broilers and a few hens. And then the whole family will eat lots of chicken. And all the family members would also work to move them every day and so on. In our case, that's different. And so we need to plan for something bigger. And then it's not so simple anymore. What I just showed you were all the ant hills and holes right here in this paddock, which we call A16. And you see also that there's a lot of bare soil. And that is because we are not having enough grass plants. And the grass plants would now start to germinate and emerge and come up. But because of the ants eating all the seed, the only thing that is developing is Synodon Bermuda grass. If it weren't for that, this whole area would continue to be in bad shape. And it's one of our best paddocks. So my hope is that with more Bermuda grass, the seeds get slightly buried, but then as long as it's not in the soil, the ants will still catch it. And it's not only the ants, there are also the birds. We have a lot of urraca birds. That is a type of magpie. And they, of course, also forage on seeds. So we have good seed production, but no plants. And we might actually be going backwards. It depends, what will emerge now. We will see. But we definitely need to do something about that. And the solution is chickens. So we just need to finish tying up loose ends. And then bring in the first flock in a mobile shelter. Of course, we will not do this here, but instead over there, where we have the Paulovnia trees, because that is the first area where we want to try this, and it's much easier to manage, because it's right next to the compound, where there's always someone. But eventually, we will have those chicken coops, those egg mobiles, or however we want to call them, following the cows. So that means when the cows have been here and have left their manure, then we will bring in the chickens a few days later so that the larvae have enough time to exist. And then they can pick on it, they will distribute the manure, and at the same time they will also go after the ants. And then whatever seed gets produced during spring will then hopefully find a way to germinate and grow into a grass plant. And then the problem will be solved. At least that's the plan. We will see if Mother Nature shares the same thought. I'm sorry for the wind noise. I hope you were still able to understand what I was saying out there in the field. The real rain hasn't yet come, but we've gotten a few drops and a cloudy sky. The weather is clearly changing, and I'm positive that real rain will come soon. There's more and more wildlife showing up on our land and closely around it, like this little rabbit. I hope you liked this update. Please come back in a few days, and hopefully by then I can report more on the rain. It's in the forecast. Let's see. See you soon at Granja Caimito in Andalusia, Spain.